Welcome, Kendall sports fans, to another episode of False Nine. We are here with the guru, Mark, and our special guest. I know you guys see him on Twitter. You guys see him commenting on everything Inter Miami, Mr. Scotty Grace himself. How are you, Mr. Scotty?
I'm good. I thank you guys for letting me on the show. I hope I don't ruin your expectations, but it's a privilege, and I'm really looking forward to talking some hair and ball. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
I
get
mean, the
into it.
pleasure is all ours. We're really excited to have you here. How are you doing, Mr. Mark?
I'm excited, man. Should be a good one today.
So usually we come in and we're either happy or sad um, based on the result from Saturday. But I feel that even if we had lost 5-0, I think that we would have come in excited to talk hair and ball with Mr. Scotty Gray. But we'll jump right into it. Um, Scotty, were you surprised at all by anything in the starting lineup this week?
Um, I was curious to see if Tata would take the turf issue and the injury concerns more seriously than he did, and it seemed like he didn't take it seriously at all. Robert Taylor, Leo Campana, both coming back from hamstring injuries, and obviously Franco Negri coming back from a long-term ACL injury. So I was curious to see if those guys maybe wouldn't play or would be small roles, but he threw all three of them out there, and other than that, I wasn't really surprised at all. No.
Mark?
You know, kind of based off what Scotty said with the injuries and the turf field, I was, seeing who was going to play out. If Noah Allen was going to go into left back, Taylor coming back off the hamstring, Campana off the hamstring. Maybe Leo Alfonso could have started at the left wing, and then Suarez was a maybe because he didn't play in turf in Brazil. He missed those games out there. So nothing really surprised me outside of maybe Campana and Taylor getting that run of minutes in.
See, every time we have the lineup changes with Taylor coming back replacing Gomez, um, Campana in the starting lineup, and there's always this fear I have. We're supposed to beat a bad New England team, and on top of that, the flu is just running through their locker room. And every time I turn the game, I'm scared that we're going to have that Montreal that just that oh yeah, we're gonna beat this team, and all of a sudden we go down 3-1, and 38 seconds in,
I
surprise.
mean, yeah, it was just a bad start, honestly. I mean, I don't know what Freitas saw there, Scotty. If you saw something different when Freitas had to play that ball into the midfield, um, in between two guys. I mean, really no reason to do it. Just recycle the ball around and keep possession to start the game, feel the game out. I don't know what your thoughts on that were, because it seems to be an issue with us, trying to play that ball into the midfield out of the back, and it's been intercepted multiple times, and it's cost us goals like it did here.
Yeah, they have not been good starting the games, especially in terms of playing the ball at the back. That kind of bit us in the butt against Sporting Kansas City when Chelo Wigan had a turnover that led to a goal. Even the week before against Nashville, they were high pressing. We were struggling, and that led to the corner that led to Franco Negri's own goal. So it's been 3 weeks in a row where we've given up an early goal because we've struggled to push the ball from our back third into the midfield. And it seems like every week they get it sorted 15, 20 minutes in, and it becomes not a problem. But it is frustrating to see this continually be a problem because I'm not sure if it's a matter of the guy just being focused from the ball drop, or if it's, it's a coaching thing where they have to figure out what the other team's doing before they can make the adjustments. So, yeah, it's really frustrating to see early on in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, those three games that you mentioned. I'll even go back to the Nashville to the New York City game where Jordi Alba gave up the ball in the midfield, trying to make a pass from the left hand side to the middle, and got picked off, and Sailor was in no man's land, and Calendar got beat near post. So I really do think that these turnovers are in the beginning of the game, to say the least, are just putting us in a back foot. But thankfully, the attack that we have is able to overcome it at times. But to start off a game 1-0 is not really something you want to see from a team sitting in first place, against a depleted New England Revolution team, who's at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So finding our footing in the first 5 minutes in the next game would be something to look forward to.
And something that I saw, and it's a running joke here on the show. I love the way Drake Callender plays. I think he's got a lot of save ability in him. But my lord, what a decision to come out, once that turnover happened. And I have this thing where, I call him Super Calendar, and there he is, because multiple times he's come and saved the day. But oof, he was anything but super on that turnover.
Yeah, he's been in bad form over the past 6 weeks or so. We saw the really bad mistake against Monterrey. This was another really bad mistake. Fortunately, it didn't really cost us because we sort of turned the game around relatively easily. But he also had that goal that he allowed against Montreal where he comes for it and it's a set piece. He comes for it, he doesn't get there, and it becomes an easy tap in. I think this has been sort of my stance is that Drake Callender had an amazing year last year. And he said to Tata Martino and he said to Chris Henderson, I want to be the best goalkeeper I can possibly be. So what do I have to do to become that? And they told him, you have to get better at playing with your feet. You have to get better at coming off your line. You have to be more of a sweeper keeper, these types of things. And those aren't things that he really excelled at coming in. He was always a phenomenal shot stopper, but those other aspects of being a good goalkeeper, he wants to improve, and he's doing it in game because he wants to prove he's better, but he's not quite as good at those types of things as he is as a shot stopper. And so we're seeing more mistakes this year because I think he's trying to improve and he's trying to be a better goalkeeper all around so he can have a future with the U.S. men's national team, a future in Europe, etc. But this is just part of the growing pains, I think. And maybe I'm being a little generous because, like you guys, I really love Callender and I think he's an excellent goalkeeper. And so maybe I'm just putting a positive spin on it. But for now, at least, that's my take on it. And I hope that it's going to pay really nice dividends later on in the season because he's had these growing pains and he went back, he watched the film and he got better because of them. And by the time it comes to, the Leagues Cup knockout rounds and the playoffs and games like that, he's a much better goalkeeper for these decisions he's making right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you with that, but I'd even go back as a preseason game against Al Nasser. That was, I think, his poorest performance I had ever seen. And then now you see some of the things that transpired in that game. Happen again now during the regular season, stuff like that. I understand that he's getting better, and like you said, I think he wants to prove to Chris Henderson and Tata that he's the dude. He wants to be able to get that spot in the U.S. men's national team. But I think for me, his biggest issue is command of the area. Like that goal against Montreal, he came out almost a third of the way. Go grab it. There's no reason that Kokoro should have a free header there when you're coming out for the ball. You need to grab it or you need to punch it out. It's those small things that if he can really improve on, harp down on them, and going forward have the confidence to get those balls and command the area, I think we're going to be a much better team.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the mistakes that we're seeing now are the building blocks that he needs to become that better goalkeeper. Yeah. So I guess maybe I'm just an eternal optimist, but that's sort of my spin on it and how I think this is part of him becoming a better goalkeeper.
I would agree. I mean, and the next step that we want to see him take is obviously playing with his feet better. I mean, that's I think his weakest part of his game. It's something that if we're going to be playing out of the back and playing back to the keeper to keep possession, where he needs to be able to control the pass and then play the right pass and not put Busquets under duress with a guy on his back, and if he needs to kick it out and upfield, and so be it. But I think that's where he needs to be better as well.
I think for
go
better
ahead.
or worse, the one thing that I don't see is indecision. I mean, he's making a decision and he's living with it, whether it's just an atrocious result. He is. I'll give him that. He is just going with it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I do feel like sometimes he's caught between two minds and he's trying to make the aggressive play and he's still and this is what I'm talking about. It's that timing and that judgment and that precision in making those decisions that he's still working on and he's still trying to improve. And as far as going out of the back, I think it's sort of the same thing, and it applies to not just Drake but also Tota Aviles, where they struggle playing the ball out of the back, but both of them, I'm sure, and especially Aviles, have intentions to go to Europe and play in leagues where that it's just mandatory. And so that's why Tata continually forces them to play out of the back so that they can get that experience in game situations and continue to improve. I know that we would all love to just eliminate the mistakes and go long and not have,
No.
give up goals. But when you have an offense like ours and when you have the expectations that we have, and when you're in a league like MLS where every point doesn't quite have, league and season defining implications, you have the opportunity to make those decisions so that you can improve, so that later on when it is trophy time, you can be a better player for it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If these guys, like especially obvious, like you said, has the aspiration to go out where he has to play in Europe, and if you can't play out of the back, you're not going to make it. I think it's that simple. So he's still young. He's 19. He's still learning. He's gonna get better at it, I believe. So I think it's just growing pains and just repetition, repetition, and then I think Tata's gonna harp on just keep playing out of the back until we are really refined at it.
And both of you guys mentioned it. It's at the beginning of games, and then Scotty mentioned with our offense. I mean, like he said, we wish their mistakes weren't made, but you can be put in a position where you overcome those mistakes. And after that early turnover, 33 minutes in, you get Taylor and the GOAT to come. I mean, Taylor was off of a rebound, right place, right time. But I mean, the ball he played to Messi was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, it looked like a broken play, sort of, because Campana kind of stuck his leg out there to try to get a flick onto Messi or something like that. Landed at Taylor, and then Messi holds his run just the slightest. And Taylor plays on the ball, and Messi slots it near post, and it's 1-1 going from there. I mean, it's just the attack that this team has with making something out of nothing so quickly is just incredible. And like all they need is a blink of an eye, and then you're the goalie's picking the ball to the back of the net and restarting at 1-1. So that's my take on that little sequence there.
Yeah, New England was doing exactly what they had to do to stop Inter Miami in terms of playing really narrow and playing really deep and making it really tough to play centrally, in the final third. And yet, even while doing that and doing it fairly well in the first half, Robert Taylor can still slice it so perfectly, perfect touch, perfect precision, and obviously Messi, when he's behind the defense, he's going to finish. So that was a beautiful goal, and it's textbook on how you can break down a defense if you have that level of quality, really.
I'm glad that you had mentioned the way New England forced us to play narrow, because I see that in teams a lot, especially when we went to a five back, they would overload our midfield and cause a nightmare for Busquets to look for a pass to break the secondary line of their midfield to go forward. But I think teams are starting to really put that game plan into place. Pack our midfield, don't give Busquets so much time on the ball, and then in turn, Messi has to come back and get it, and it hurts now, especially with Redondo and Gomez out, but with Taylor coming back and Kremaski coming back, it'll help those guys help Busquets alleviate the pressure that's put on him in the midfield.
Well, we saw last season Nashville in a pair of games really wrote the book on how to defend this Messi team in the Leagues Cup final and in that home game where they got a 0-0 draw.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like some teams adopted that this season. We saw the Galaxy do it early on, and we've seen it a lot more recently where if you can play really narrow defensively and really well structured and keep the distance between your lines really short, you can really clog up the middle and make it really difficult for guys like Suarez and Messi to operate effectively. And so, the one player that I think is the key to all of this is Robert Taylor, because he can provide that danger, and he can provide danger from a really wide area, which forces that back line to spread out, and that's what creates the space. So getting Robert Taylor back, I think is huge. And, for as good as he is and for as many goal contributions as he has, I think he's equally important for unlocking Messi and Suarez centrally.
Yeah, I mean, breaking the lines is something huge, and we saw it when Taylor was out that Diego Gomez did against Sporting Kansas City. Like Messi picked up the ball in the midfield, and Taylor made an absolute dart across the outside back in between the center back, and Messi played him, and he scored. But those runs are what Taylor does the best, breaking those lines. Going over the top, having Suarez drop in, pull a center back out, and then running behind him. I think it's crucial for Messi for the success of this team.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys probably agree with me when I'm about to say, but Tata's original plan when he didn't have that opportunity with Robert Taylor was to play a 3-5-2 and just ignore those runs, and it didn't work at all. And so even if it's not Robert Taylor, even if it was Diego Gomez, you could see how important those runs are, how important it is to be able to play wide from the attacking three and having that real left winger that can be dangerous, athletic, and effective. And it just changes this offense entirely. And I really hope that we never see that 3-5-2 again, because it just doesn't work with this personnel.
I can't agree any. That statement defies my Inter Miami logic for the season. No more 3-5-2 because our midfield has no balance, and then we're caught up too far high. Outside center back is going this way. Our defense is broken. Messi finds the ball at his feet, and then there's no runners because it's only Suarez. I mean, I don't want to see a 3-5-2 ever again.
Mark dubbed it tacticless Tata on the show. That he said that's how he was referring to Tata at all times, because he's just
I mean,
frustrated by his
it's
tactical.
there's just frustration with him. Sometimes subs are made too early or not at the right time and waiting too long. I mean, it's just a whole thing I have on him, and maybe we'll get to that, maybe not. But as far as you said, the 3-5-2, I'm fine with it never coming back again.
Yeah, we were doing our pregame show, and we were. This was the last time we saw it was against Monterrey in that second leg, and we were feeling very confident. We had gotten Messi back, and we felt like we can take it to them. We just looked really good against the Colorado Rapids in the second half with Messi, and we were feeling really confident. And then, as soon as the lineup comes out, we see it's a 3-5-2. We're just confident shot. It just felt like we had given up and capitulated before the game even started, and it was just a disaster,
That
really.
it's that like that 3-5-2. There's so many options he can go with to piss me off, like a Robert Taylor right wing back against New York Red Bull, or a Noah Allen center back. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. This formation is not fits our personnel, and hopefully it's something that is buried somewhere else and never coming back for us.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't go too deep into it because we'll lose the next half an hour with me ranting. So,
Me and you both.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you, man.
So I have two questions. Well, not really questions. What did you guys think of Franco Negri's first half? Because that first half from him, I thought was one of the strongest I've seen from him since coming back with that injury.
Scotty, you want to take this one first? You can.
He's a good player, man. He really is, and he's one of the few players on this team that's like a prime age player where you know what you're going to get and you just expect consistent quality. And I really like Franco Negri. I think having a guy like him as a backup player is a luxury few MLS teams can have. And so when Jordi Alba went down, I had no concern because I knew Franco Negri can just step in and be that quality player. So I agree with you. I thought he was good. I thought he was good the whole game, really. And he's just a good player, man. I don't know what else to say.
No, I agree. I know Franco Negri going back to last season. I saw him the first two games in person and I was like, wow, he is going to be a very good player for us going forward. Of course, season derailed by injury, but even coming back this season, I thought he looked great in his games. Honestly, he's been in good form. He's good going forward. Has the work rate to track back and defend. He's a solid player overall. So I thought his first half and his game in general was good.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys agree, but and I know it's been a long time since he tore his ACL, but it feels to me like he's a little bit more athletic this year. It feels like he worked really hard to get in good shape, and it feels like, and maybe this is just recency bias, but it feels like he's more explosive and more athletic than he was last year with the same
I
quality.
I would agree. I mean, he's it's a testament to the work he put in. Then looking at the way he looked last season to the way he looks now, just like you said, the explosiveness. the knee looks like it's not even a bother to him, like nothing ever happened. So I'm happy for him, to be honest. And going forward, I mean, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be an important player for us, and he's a solid rotational piece, starter, anything you want on that left side with Alba out or if Alba needs a break.
You think Messi and Co being here and the players around him, which is completely different than what he was playing before, allow him to play a little bit more free, which would allow him to display the qualities that you were talking about, Scotty?
I think that he really wanted to play with Messi. And so I think he worked really hard to make sure that when he came back, he was in a good spot. I think he worked really hard to make sure that his recovery was both effective and as quick as possible. And I think he's probably just really excited to be on this team. And so focus is always at 100%. And he's, just trying to be as dynamic as he can be. But actually, I think he's been fairly well structured defensively. And I think, Jordi Alba loves to bomb forward, and not that he's bad defensively, but I feel like our back structure is a little bit better with Franco Negri just because I think he's really trying hard to be 100% focused 100% of the time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he gets forward, but he also has that mind. Hey, all right, the play is switched. We don't have the ball anymore. I'm getting back, and I'm hunkering down, and we're playing defense. Not that Alba doesn't do that, but I think that focus is there from Negri just a tad more because of this team that he's on.
The second question I had, and it's a conundrum that I was talking to Mark pre-show. I have this inner Julian Gressel dilemma because he's great in the final third in terms of delivery, in terms of just being able to give service. He's just great at it. But I feel that he's just so bad everywhere else. So my inner debate is he's always the first sub out. Is that delivery, that service worth the bad first touches? Just I don't know. What do you guys think? I have this inner dilemma that I can't get away from.
That one first, Mark.
Yeah, I can take that one. Um, I think it may be something to do with a little Julian Gressel fatigue, as I'll call it. I mean, I believe he's the only player to play every game for us.
Yeah, including
Um,
preseason.
yeah, including preseason. And in a position he's not the strongest at. I think I've said this multiple times on a show or maybe on Twitter that his best position is out wide in a 4-4-2 as a right mid. And I know we hunker down to a 4-4-2 at times defensively, but offensively he's kind of tucked in a bit, trying to provide Busquets an outlet and an outlet to Messi. And I think, is a sacrifice of his final ball and stuff like he's good at it, but I mean everything that he does, Messi can do, Taylor can do. I believe, not. I mean, he's a good service provider of final third, final ball into the box and on corners and stuff like that. But I think it has to do with some fatigue. I never thought he was the best defender and stuff like that, but he does have these spells of bad touches, bad trying to force a ball, a misplaced pass and stuff like that. So I mean, maybe he gets a game or two off, and it's a breath of fresh air for him. So it's something to look out for.
I think that when Tata Martino brought him in, his thought was we're going to play a 3-5-2. We're going to have Messi and Suarez up top, and then we're going to have Gressel in that right wing back spot and Alba in that left wing back spot. And they're going to be able to get forward and just whip in crosses. And they are, possibly the best whipper in of crosses from each side in the entire league, from that wing back spot or from, a right and left midfield spot. And yet the rest of the team doesn't work in a 3-5-2. And so he's had to scrap it. But he has loyalty to this player. He went out and he recruited him to Inter Miami. So he wants to make sure he has a chance to really establish himself in this team. And because of how we've had to go with this 4-3-3, just because it fits everyone else better, he's sort of shoehorning Gressel into the midfield. I don't think Julian Gressel is a bad player. And I think that if you put him on the New England Revolution, he'd be their best midfielder, or he'd be one of their best players. I know Carlos Hill is there, but in a lot of teams, he would be like a really important player. It's just that on our team, We have Busquets, and I don't think he fits well with Busquets structurally. And then we have a bevy of young midfielders that we really like in Diego Gomez, Redondo, Kramaski, David Ruiz. And so it's so easy to look at all of those little mishaps and think to ourselves, man, it would be nice if we had Kramaski's athleticism. It would be really nice if we had David Ruiz's punch, because we don't need that offensive threat. And so he's a good player, but like you said, I would like to see him get a game or two off just to get a rest and a reset, because I don't think he's had a good game in a while now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I don't feel as bad because I didn't know if it was just me picking on him. It was just I'm watching the games, and every time there's a turnover, I look and he's involved somehow, some way. But it could just be that it could be just
Yeah.
personal
Like,
fatigue.
I want to say I learned from Inter Miami, and specifically from Federico Higuain, that you should never write out a good player that has true quality, because it's just about finding the right situation in the right place for him to have a real impact. And we saw that with Higuain once we got Pozuelo, but. And I said the same thing about Luis Suarez in the preseason, when he looked like he was really going to struggle and he wasn't running very well and he looked like he was in pain a lot. It was just a matter of letting him click in and finding his role. And I think the same is true of Julian Gressel. So I don't want to say he's a bad player, because he's not. He's a good, high quality MLS player. It's just going to be a matter of figuring out how to put him in a position to succeed, along with all the other players that are more important, and you have to plan around them before you can plan around Julian Gressel. So it's out there for him, and I don't want to write him off, because he is a good quality player.
No,
I
no,
agree.
write him off. Absolutely not. He provided that service to Suarez. He's good at what he does.
His best game to me, or his maybe last best game for me, was the Orlando game, where he was playing out a little wider, where he came in and had that two assists, and stuff like that. But I do agree that Tata's shoehorning him into that midfield spot because of the loyalty and trying to figure out where we know where he fits in best out wide, but now with the injuries to our young midfielders, he's gonna play there, but I would like to see him take a game off or two.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
This weekend, well, for the past couple weeks, we've seen David Ruiz, Julian Gressel, and Sergio Busquets in the midfield. It feels like Benjamin Kramaski should and probably has to get a start this weekend, and at least that's what I would do. Do you think Tata is going to do that? And if he does, do you think he'll take out Gressel, or do you think he'll take out David Ruiz?
I would love to see Benja get a start in. I mean, I love him. His Leagues Cup run last year with Messi was incredible. I think he's a heck of a talent. I personally would like to see him come in for Gressel, just because I believe David Ruiz has the fresher legs and that bite and that little tenacity to him to play next to Busquets, to track back defensively, sort of like a Gomez, but Gomez is a higher quality player. But he has those little those little spurts, those little 5 minute spells of good defense and keeping the ball in front of him and not stabbing at it. And he's ever since he got that red card, I think David Ruiz has improved. In games, especially in the midfield. So I would go with the David Ruiz, Busquets, and Kramaski midfield, giving Kramaski a little bit more leniency going up the pitch, to connect to link up with Messi and Suarez and stuff like that.
Do you think that's what Tata will do, or do you think that's just like what you would want to do?
Yeah, with Tata to me is stubborn, so I would not be surprised if Julian Gressel gets another start, and maybe Kramaski gets another more. Kramaski's come in 70th minute or later. I know he came in like the 80 something again, or close to 70 something, 80 something against New England. Hopefully he gets in a run maybe of 30, 35 minutes. But for that, I mean, I would let the fresh legs of Benjamin go. Give Gressel a day off, a game off, and see how that midfield plays out.
What about you, Byron?
My concern is this. I feel that Inter Miami's game is won and lost in the midfield. I feel that we have enough up top, we have enough creativity, we have enough scoring powers. With Benha, and I love the kid because I want him on this team long term. I think he's a long term answer. I'd be so afraid of just, you know, like you guys, like we touched at the beginning of the show, a misplaced pass, just a quick turnover. Redondo, that kind of a player comes back. Gomez, that kind of a player comes back. I don't know if we have, even Gressel, for all the warts that he's had in terms of just having a bad spurt of games, does come back and provide that defensive bite in a quick trigger situation where we're sprinting back. I don't know. I don't know if we lose that in, with Benha going in, and we've seen this team struggle at times, especially the back line getting caught off guard when there's those quick transitions. I don't know if you'd be leaving the team vulnerable for those counters if you go ahead and do that. But that's just me.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think Kermaski has a little bit more athleticism to get back and be able to follow those runners as they're making the runs into the box, which I think is something we've struggled with, although we've been better at recently. And yeah, I think that I think Kermaski might provide a little bit more going forward than Gressel, just based on the players that we have around him. I think Gressel's probably a higher quality player in the final third, but just I think Kermaski fits in with Suarez and Messi a little bit better. And, we saw that a little bit in this game against New England where both the third goal and the fourth goal, he's finding the right positions. He's getting involved in the plays. He had that nice little kick on for the fourth goal, and he was sort of running back around to get in place in case Suarez's shot goes off the post or gets, parried away or something. So I just think with those two specifically, he works well with them. And then he has a little bit more athleticism than Gressel to get back. Though I will say, I saw Gressel, I saw the team live a couple weeks ago, and Gressel's a little bit more athletic in person than he looks on TV sometimes. So if you haven't been to the games, and for any of your listeners, if they haven't been to the games, he's a little bit more athletic than he looks.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Russell live, I think last year when he was with DC before he got transferred to Columbus, and he looks athletic in person. Like he looks it, but I would agree that, Kramaski probably has that little more tenacity to come back on defense and stuff like that, especially track those runners like you mentioned to the box, something that Diego Gomez was, got really good at, and now David Ruiz is asked to, try to make up for that, but for the time that he's out.
What we saw, I think it was that second goal by Messi in the 66th minute with that ball. Busquets served to him. It was just that decoy run by Taylor, and it was an absolute, just masterful serve. I don't know what it is sometimes where there's this chemistry that is just unmatched anywhere. Alba, Messi, and Busquets. Just what are your thoughts on just their
On that,
ability to come out of nowhere and score?
you want to take this one first?
Sure. I think that is one of the textbook ways to break down a low block defense. And I'm wondering if now that we've had, almost a year with Robert Taylor, Busquets, and Messi on the same team, they're finally getting that chemistry where Robert Taylor takes half a step towards that decoy run, and Messi already knows that he's about to get the ball, and Busquets already knows exactly where to play the ball. And it's that chemistry that feels like, not to say that they haven't had great chemistry, but that was like really impressive. It was a ridiculous ball, a ridiculous timing from Messi, well placed, perfect precision, perfect touch. And then Messi with the finish. That was just one of the highlight reel goals, mostly because of the Busquets pass and then just the dynamic between all three of the players. But that one was phenomenal. That was the best goal of the night for me.
Yeah, I'm agreeing 100%. And I actually watched that game, and I believe I saw it on Twitter. Someone had digested that play, and they just focused on Messi and how far he dragged the midfielder defender, into the space that he wanted. He got onto his back, and then the timing and the weight of the ball was in sync with the timing and the run of Messi. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could believe it because they did this for years at Barcelona, and then it just shows the quality that this team has. And like we said, it's a simple blink of an eye, and you're picking the ball out of the back of the net again.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I know I'm frozen. Nothing I can do about it. But one of the positives that we saw in this game was the long-awaited uh, debut of Matias Rojas. Came in, you know, immediate impact, hustled to keep that ball in play on that goal on the goal line, and then perfect ball to Messi. Messi, you know, left foot goalie just makes the save, but and then that allows Benja to be at the right place at the right time for his goal. Just overall thoughts on Matias's debut.
Go ahead.
I thought he was lively. Going after that ball. Shows that he wants to win. First of all, a ball on the byline, defender on it. A lot of guys at that moment really might not go for it. He saw an opportunity, jumped on it, squared it to Messi, like you said. Messi made it. Keeper parried it into Benja's path, and Benja scores. But I truly think that as time goes on, and especially with that Copa America coming up in June, that Matias Rojas is going to be a big key for this team. And his ability to play on the ball, to play as a creator, to play in that Pozuelo role, I would say, with Taylor and with Suarez. I think it'll be a big key for this team going forward.
I was really excited about this player for the last, since we first got linked with him seemingly
Yeah.
2 months ago. I always thought he was going to be a really nice, impactful player. And the fact that we could get him that late in the cycle and it not be a guy that we targeted from the beginning, I thought was really a nice find. And I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, despite what happened with him in his last stop in Brazil. But that play, I think, really elucidated so much because you see the hustle, but you also see the balance. And then, if you go watch that play back from a few different angles, you see he makes that pass to Messi as he's getting back up. And so the touch, the vision to get that pass and to put it in a place where he can get a shot off on the first touch, all of that was really, really impressive. And so if we can see that from, him on a consistent basis throughout a 90-minute game, whenever he does get a chance to start, he's going to be a really impactful player. I agree. I don't know actually how much he's going to get an opportunity in the next couple months because he's not taking Messi off the field. And I don't know if he's going to take Robert Taylor off the field. And I don't know how well he fits into a midfield in the way that we play. So I'm actually curious on your thoughts. Are we going to see this player a lot? I know there's no Open Cup and we don't have a ton of midweek games. So I don't know how much rotation we're going to get.
I'm gonna say, because when Taylor gets in a good run of form, he gets in a really good run of form, and he's got that chemistry with Messi and Busquets, and now he's getting with Suarez. Um, I could see it. May, maybe I'm just spitballing here. Maybe Suarez gets a day off. Messi plays as a false nine, and you have right wing Rojas and left wing Taylor, and you play like that with those two guys making inverted runs and Messi picking up the ball in the midfield, something like that. Or I could also see some squad rotation with Taylor coming out, or maybe and Matias Rojas starting. So I'm hoping he gets a little bit of playing time, just to get that cohesion with the team. Because I believe because when Messi goes to Copa America, he's going to be the guy that fits in, that slots in for him. I mean, that's the reason we pretty much got him. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I think he
when
got
sorry,
a
go
ton
ahead.
of flexibility. I think Messi's very versatile, and I feel like sometimes Messi greatness hamstrings Tata in terms of where Messi plays, and I think that having someone that can replicate his skill set, obviously not at the level that Messi, has a skill set, but I think that it allows him to be more creative up front. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree.
Yeah, I think he's a good player, and I think he can fit in a lot of places. But I think you said it right. Where once we get to Copa America, I think that right wing spot's going to be his for the the month.
Yeah,
I think there's
for
7
the time.
games that
Yeah,
Messi might
I,
miss, so that
you
could be his
yeah.
run.
Yeah, you figure Argentina goes on a run. Um, so I feel that's a spot, to really make an impact on this team.
Yeah, Inter Miami ends up winning 4-1. I feel that the the dead legs of New England really put the nail in the coffin there towards the end. It just the domination, you could see it escalate as time went on. Um, but I really want to get into a few topics since we have our special guest Scotty here. Um, what are your thoughts on Messi and MLS? And do you think that there's this overexposure, over monetization of Messi, and it ignores the rest of the league? I wanted Scotty's thoughts on that, and then we can get Mark's.
Do you, do you mean from the perspective of like OG Inter Miami fans, or from like fans of other MLS teams and just the league in general?
Fans, just the league in general. I feel like there's this just messy overexposure in terms of there's so much focus on Messi. Does that hurt the growth of the rest of the league? You have what is it, LAFC? You know, out west. Galaxy brought in a few good players. The Crew is still one of the top teams in the MLS. Yet I feel Apple and MLS only features Messi.
I think that MLS fans have always had something of an inferiority complex. And I don't know if that goes back to, players from MLS not being enough on the national team, or, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons. And maybe the MLS in America isn't the best soccer league in the world. And so maybe there's some, you know, feelings that come from that. But I don't think Messi's bad at all. Listen, you just mentioned a couple teams that are all really good: LAFC and Real Salt Lake and the Galaxy and the Columbus Crew and the Red Bulls. And, there's a lot of good teams in this league. And yet Messi's team, even though they've missed him for half their games, are still top of the table, still first in the Supporters Shield. He is the best player, not just, you know, ever, but like historically, but in the league right now, he's still the best player. And so just like the MLB would promote Shohei Ohtani and the NBA would focus on LeBron James for so many years, and those types of players, they are the marquee players for your league. And so of course you're gonna shine them, let them shine. And I don't think it's bad. I really don't.
I agree. When you have that caliber of a player in your league, um, you're gonna make him the face of the league as much as possible, to be honest. And I think for the league, it's not a bad thing. Um, I can't imagine the amount of money that it's bringing into them. So it's the exposure. Um, so I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay. One of the biggest knocks that I hear for MLS is the spending, the roster flexibility, the what people perceive as the rosters and the teams being hamstrung on in terms of spending in a cap. News broke earlier this week that the EPL was implementing a spending cap. Not that we're going to compare the amount the MLS spends with the EPL, but just what do you think that the EPL instituting a cap means for MLS long term? And do you think that it's some sort of validation for the structure within MLS and the spending caps?
The first thing, I don't know if that's actually going to take place in
It's
England. I know they
gotta be
did some.
voted on, I think,
Well, they
or
tried to do something
approved.
similar
Yeah.
in the lower leagues, and it got struck down by the players' union or the courts or something. So I don't exactly know if that's going to go into effect, but I think what they want to do and what the EPL has done a really good job of and has allowed them to become the best league in the world is come with some form of parity. And that is sort of, I think, the crux of what you're talking about, where MLS has always been interested in having teams being on an equal playing field. And, I know in England you have the Big Six and Manchester City seems to dominate every year, but, from 3 to 18, you have a lot more competitiveness than you do in other leagues. And so they've used that to their advantage, and they've become the richest league in the world, and they've become the best league in the world because they have so many teams that are at least competitive. And so I do think that for MLS, that shows why it's a good model. As far as how you use the cap to achieve that, I don't really have a problem with the MLS having convoluted rules if they're for a specific purpose. And you just have to make sure that the purpose that you're trying to achieve is still happening with the rules you have in place. And so, the U22 rule is a new one, and the idea was to bring more kids from South America. And I think that's an amazing rule. And you don't get that same effect if you just open up spending. And so, I don't mind convoluted rules in the MLS. And I like the fact that there's an overarching salary cap because it does create an opportunity for teams all over the country to be competitive. But I just want to make sure that we don't have arcane rules that were originally for one purpose and that purpose has been achieved or it's no longer relevant, but the rule remains in place just because the league hasn't gotten around to updating it because they've grown accustomed to it.
Yeah, I agree. I really do like that U22 rule. And like you said, if you open up spending, how many of those kids that are U22 would actually be bought to come here? They're going to go for the more expensive proven guys rather than a guy like Facundo Fagias or maybe a Redondo and stuff like that. And Diego Gomez wouldn't get those opportunities that they have now. So I agree in that sense.
Yeah, and even Inter Miami, if they
Yeah.
had money that they could spend on anyone, they wouldn't choose those guys. They would have chosen older players that were more established, and so it's much more fun having a Diego Gomez and guys like that. So
those guys are fun to watch. I mean, Diego Gomez has transformed in a season into one of the best eights in the MLS before he got hurt.
I think he was the best. He was incredible.
I said it a couple shows ago. If not the best, he was two. I was struggling to find another one, but he's like his improvements all over the pitch are just so noticeable and so important to this team. And one thing that I loved about him was his tenacity and his ability to press. When he presses the ball, he causes turnovers and it's led to goals. So, and losing that hurts, but hopefully David Ruiz can fill some of that void. But Diego Gomez to me is one of our most impactful, important players.
Yeah, he's a monster in the midfield. Our midfield depth, if you really stop and think about it, is ridiculous.
Yeah, because
when healthy.
When healthy. I mean, Redondo, Gomez, and Busquets.
Yeah, but even when it's not fully healthy and you're missing both Gomez and Redondo, you still feel good about Busquets, Bresso, Karmaski, and Ruiz.
Yeah, I'm confident with those four. I mean, even Yannick Bright, has shown
I like Bright a lot.
Has shown glimpses of being a holding midfielder and someone more defensive minded to allow Busquets to go forward and stuff like that, and covering for him. So, the depth is there. It's insane.
I don't know. I feel like yes, it's insane, and we've talked about how good the depth is on this team, and I don't know if it's just bad timing on injuries, but sometimes it can be a roller coaster in terms of depth. I don't know if injuries happen all at the same time. Um, I don't know. I just sometimes I feel like I look at the starting lineup and I'm like, are we really that far down in terms of who we're trying to play? Uh, but I mean, I agree. Right now, it's an embarrassment of riches in our midfield. We're here fighting over which Scotty mentioned Julian Gressel being an important player anywhere else, and Benjamin Kramaski. And then Robert Taylor comes back, and the only reason he's getting playing time is because Gomez is out at the moment. There's just so you guys said it. It's depth, but then at times I felt like that depth was just missing for various reasons.
All right.
I don't know if that
I
killed the conversation.
no, I mean, when Gomez comes back, he's gonna start for Ruiz, and then Taylor eventually keeps that left wing position. I mean, the ones that are gonna suffer maybe the starting minutes are Julian Gressel and Ruiz, I would think, when Redondo and Gomez are fully fit. So that's where, having the ability to go to Gressel, to Ruiz, to Kramaski, yeah, as a sub, to kill off a game or to get another goal or something, it really, really benefits us.
Yeah, and the midfield is a little different than there are some places where we're not too deep, right? We don't have a right
Yeah,
back other than Cello Weekend. And
no,
as we saw, the left wing spot is, you know, relying on Leo Alfonso, I don't think is the plan for this season, at least, even though he's had some moments. And, our center back depth isn't incredible either. But I think in that midfield specifically, we have a lot of guys that I feel good about.
yeah, I agree.
Sorry about that.
All good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no
whole
worries.
laptop thing. I'm sure that Alex being athletic than he looks the whole show has been just absolutely amazing.
It's
And I want to apologize to Jordan. I couldn't get to his comment earlier as well. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen.
Yeah, in the Copa America. Yeah, I agree. I mean, is Gomez gonna go to Copa America? Because I believe his injury takes him up to the start or just around roster selection. Is Paraguay gonna take him, knowing that he's probably gonna anchor their team in the Olympics? So do they let him stay with us? That would be huge. Um, Redondo's probably gonna go to the Olympics as well, I
Well,
believe. If
I don't think we're going to lose a lot of guys for the Copa
it's
America.
Messi,
It's just
it's
Messi is
just
the only
Messi,
obvious
right?
one.
Yeah, I don't think Luis Suarez plays for Uruguay anymore.
No,
Um,
Christoph might go to the Euros with Ukraine,
yeah,
but he didn't get called in for their last camp.
yeah,
I don't think Redondo is going to get called in for Argentina. He for
no.
the Olympics, yes, but the Olympics is shorter and it's later, and you'll have Messi back by then. And so I don't think Calendar is going to get called in for the U.S. national team. And so I think we're going to get through relatively unscathed for that first, big tournament window, other than obviously Lionel Messi. So
And yeah,
unscathed is
obviously,
probably not the right word, but
missing Messi, I know we have it's huge, but getting these points now leading up to that Copa America are just as big as the production of Rojas after it. I would say.
well, have you guys looked at the schedule? Because me and my
Our,
co-host did this yesterday, and the next 7 games before up until the Copa are like relatively easy,
yeah,
and then it gets much more difficult during Copa.
I know. Right after Red Bulls, we go to Montreal and then to Orlando. I know we have Atlanta as a midweek game,
Mhm.
and I can't remember the couple teams in between in between there.
Well, we got a trip to Vancouver, which is I think
And
the toughest game in this stretch. But
they are
I think
playing some really good football
yeah,
right now.
that's the toughest game in this stretch. But I think the Red Bulls at home, you got to feel good about. Montreal on the road, I think we should feel good about. Orlando
Mhm.
City has not been in good form lately.
Nope,
DC at home, that should be an
that's
easy
another
win.
one. Yep. Hmm.
Atlanta United at home, that should be an easy win. And then,
The Wednesday game.
yeah, and then the last one is St. Louis City at home, which also feels like a game we should be comfortable in. But then once they all leave for Copa, well, once Messi leaves for Copa, you get Philadelphia and Columbus and Nashville and Charlotte FC
And
Cincinnati. And
yeah,
so
you
it gets
got
a little bit more
Nashville.
difficult.
Yeah,
But
Nashville away.
yeah,
Philadelphia's always tough, no matter where they are, because of Gazdag, Carranza, Jim Curtin, all those guys, and
yeah.
Columbus Crew. They have probably the best coach in the MLS, hands down. I would say.
Yeah, and but it just shows how important this next stretch is because you
Yeah,
want to rack up points because when
yeah,
you lose Messi and the games become a little bit more difficult, you want to make sure you have a nice cushion
yeah.
for that
Especially
next period.
build up the goal differential. I know we're at +10 right now, so that everything leading up to Copa is going to be important. In that stretch of games that we just mentioned.
Can I ask you guys a question though? How are you
Yeah.
feeling in general? Because there was about a month where we went 5 games without a win, and it felt really like bad vibes, right? And now 3 games, 3 wins, 2 on the road, and it feels very positive. We got some guys back from injury, and it feels like we have a little bit more of a robust roster. We're not playing twice a week. I guess to me at least, it feels like a lot better vibes. Is that how you guys see it? Or you guys feel like we're poised to go on a nice run, or do you think
So
some bad teams are
my
gonna?
my my vibes were super high after that Orlando game, after that thrashing. And then we hit the draw to New York City, the draw to Colorado, the losses to Monterrey, the loss to New York Red Bulls and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this team has hit a bump in the road. I see it. Um, we've had Messi out for some of these games and stuff like that. Really unfortunate not to get a win against Colorado. We gave up the ball in the 86th minute, trying to a wall pass with Gomez and Alba. I was like, okay, we that was a game you need to see out. The New York City FC game, plenty of shots. Suarez could have had a hat trick. Didn't fall for him. Um, and that Red Bulls game, we got played out of the stadium. So that, I mean, there was nothing you can really do about that. But I didn't lose hope. I was like, okay, this team just hit a bad stretch here, and then we started to pick up results now. Starting to hit our mark, starting to stride, to say the least. And we have a good uh how do I say this, a good feel for this team now, and what it could become going forward. That that this attack can really be something dangerous and lead us to more victories.
I have this optimism. Just this, we're I know what this team is. We have all this talent, and there's still that pre-Messi PTSD that I have, where yes, we're gonna be great. Oh my god, but is this the game where we're just? I mean, there's this. I almost so it's. I feel like it's a Miami thing sometimes where we're great, and then we've lived with the Marlins for so long. We've lived with pre-Messi Inter Miami, where you're just like,
So I understand the PTSD. You don't need to put me through it again. I
yeah,
understand very
it's
well.
still there for me. So
I get it.
that's I go into every game where yes, we're gonna win, but every time there's this, oh no, oh, okay, we got through it, and then oh no, yes, 3 points.
Like
That's
that
kind of how I
that sort
feel
of
about
playing down to the opponent type of thing is a Miami staple, especially with the Heat and maybe football teams, but Inter Miami sometimes do that. They play down to the opponent. And then they make your heart race a little bit, and then they win by 3 goals.
Yeah. I think that, I don't want to take this on too big of a tangent, but it feels like out of the big teams in South Florida, there's a couple that have really bad like processes. And so they're structurally not well run. And, you mentioned a couple of them. And then there's others that are a lot better run. And so you feel a lot more comfortable with those because, the Heat and, the Panthers, you
it.
feel a
Now,
lot better
yes,
about. But yes, now. And I do feel like Inter Miami has sort of pushed themselves into that realm more so than the Marlins and to a slightly lesser extent the Dolphins. But I don't
Yeah,
want to take this too far off topic.
no, no, no. But yeah, I hope we can pick up these the points needed, or the points that we should pick up in these couple games coming up, to give us that cushion. So it's something to get happy, to look forward to.
so I have two things to ask. One, take Messi out of the equation. Who's been your Inter Miami MVP?
I'm going to take Luis Suarez also out of the equation because I think those two have been like on a tier of their own. Um, and it's not that fun. Like, I think that it's an obvious Luis Suarez, but
Yeah,
I think outside of those two, I think it has to be Diego Gomez, right? He's been so disruptive, and we've seen his improvement going forward. Last year he couldn't put a pass right, he couldn't get a shot on target, even if he had good opportunities. And this year he's gotten those final third productions. And he's putting in good crosses and he's putting good passes forward and he's scoring goals. But the midfield work, which he was doing a little bit last year, but he's really refined and really honed in. It's just so destructive to what the other team wants to do in the midfield. It's like a cheat code, really, because you make the other team uncomfortable in the midfield every single game. That destabilizes them, and then it becomes a lot easier to play winning soccer.
yeah. That's my non-Messi MVP, non-Suarez MVP is Diego Gomez, hands down. I said he was a player to watch in the beginning of the season. I had mentioned it to you, Byron, and he's been an incredible player this year. Like Scotty had said, that that chaos he causes in the midfield for other teams. And they mistouch a ball, and he's on it. He pounces on it. A guy turns their back on him, and he's on him, making them play backwards, and tearing apart their system in the middle, and how they're trying to play and stuff like that. And constantly pressing. And now he's been able to finish in the final third. He's been able to string those passes together. So he's become a very, very good number 8 in the MLS. The best, as we would probably say.
I'm smiling because he gets so excited to talk about Diego Gomez.
I love, dude. I love. And good on him. He's being looked at by Brighton. Was the last thing on his on his radar. So good on him. A team that has developed a couple good center mids in the Prem. With Caicedo and McAllister. All the credit to him, man. Honestly.
And you can see him fitting in the Premier League too. He has the body and the athleticism, the physicality to really do well there. Yeah. I was sad when I heard that because it made way too much sense, and I was like, we're not going to have
please
these
don't
players
happen
for
this
very
summer.
long.
Yeah. No. We just got him. Please no.
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to ask was, does Messi run away with MLS MVP, or is there anybody that can give him a run for his money?
No, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think we'll know until after Copa, because we'll have to see where sort of the statistics line up. We'll have to see how much he's played, because I think, he could miss 7 games depending on how far Argentina goes in that tournament. And so a guy like Chicho Arango could have a 7-8 goal advantage on him by the end of that tournament. So I think once we see what the landscape looks like at the end of Copa, I think it'll be a lot easier to make that sort of prediction. And there's a lot of good players in this league that could really have impactful seasons. And I don't know how many of the voters are, I feel like some of them might be like, I want to vote for someone that's not Messi unless Messi just absolutely demands it. I don't know if that's the case or not, because it might go the opposite way where people want to vote for Messi because he's Messi. But I think it's too early to tell on that.
Yeah. There's too many guys like Dennis Bouanga, Giacomakis over in Atlanta can get on a tear. Lewis Morgan, I mean, he's had a great start to the season.
The 3 guys that I think are the most dangerous, or at least the 2 guys, are both on the same team for the Galaxy in Ricky Puig and Joseph Painstill. Those guys are so good. They're so dynamic.
They are
split up some of the vote for themselves.
They are that front, that attack that they have with Painstill and what is the striker's name? Serbian, I can't remember.
Jovic,
Jovic, and then Puig behind them. That is a formidable attack.
The other one too, Gabriel Peck, the other winger, he's really good too. We got them at a good time.
We did when they did not know they really weren't playing all that. The second game of the season, they didn't
have a ton of chemistry yet. Yeah,
but
we got them at a good time.
Pain still caused problems for us that game. As much as I mean, that guy he's a good player.
Yeah, we were lucky to get out of that game with a draw. We scored late, and there's a different world where if we play them now, they could beat us 3-1 if we played the same way. So I think we got them at a good time.
I agree.
I think that draw looks better and better each and every.
I mean,
every week.
Even that for Real Salt Lake, Chicho Arango has gone on a tear these past couple weeks.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, that guy's a good number 9. Like he can put the ball in the back of the net. Like he's very good, and we're able to hold him.
And they have a couple good young wingers. One of the U22s is a Colombian named Andres, who's really good and dynamic. And then Diego Luna is a young American.
Yeah.
Both of them are like 20, 21.
Yeah.
But they are really good. And again, I think we got them at a good time because the more experience they get, the more games they get under their belt, they're going to get more dynamic. And then, of course, with a guy who can really finish like Chicho Arango, they're going to be more dangerous. And listen, I think they're second in the supporter shield table right now, top of the West.
They might be. Yeah, they very well might be. Yeah,
they're good team.
Yeah, they are, and we caught them, like you said, at a very good time where it's the first game of the season. Not as much chemistry going on with them yet, and then now they're starting to pick up the pace and starting to put goals away and get results, and like they are a very good team.
So the reason I asked that question, you guys hit on every single point why I asked that question. 1, voter fatigue with Messi. That was 1. 2, the amount of games played in terms of other guys getting advantage. 3, that the fact that there were so many other guys and you guys brought up each and every single one.
Well, listen, that's what we do on this show, right? We ask smart questions and we give smart answers, right? That's what we're here for.
We only name a handful. I could have named Thiago Almada, Luciano Acosta, whoever
there's a
else
lot.
you wanted.
All right.
There's a
No need to
plethora.
show off. No need to show
Of
off.
guys.
All right. All right, Mr. Scotty, I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us. This was fun. I mean, I was frozen half the show, and we do have a tradition on this show. It is not a false 9 without our friend Jay Gons. Just we don't know what this means.
I have no idea what it means yet.
Every show.
If it brings Inter Miami, if it brings Inter Miami 3 points, send it in every show, buddy.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Just to promote my stuff real quick, me and my co-host Sora, we do a podcast called the Drive Pink Dialogue. We do a couple shows a week, but we always do a pre-game episode in the hour before kickoff on YouTube. It's the Drive Pink Dialogue, and I always get really nervous and excited in the hour before kickoff. The lineup comes out, and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready for Inter Miami soccer. And so we decided, let's just go live and just talk with people, and people can get in the chat. So if you guys feel the same way and the lineup comes out and you're ready for the game and there is no pregame show and you just want to get into it, I implore you guys to come join us on YouTube, because it's fun and it's a good way to sort of get through that last hour and kind of prepare for the game. And we'll talk about the opponents and stuff. But yeah, that's the Drive Pink Dialogue. So I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah.
Oh, man, thanks for jumping on. It was a real pleasure to talk Inter Miami with you.
Yeah. So remember, guys, hour before the game,
Drive Pink Dialogue.
Get all of your formation yelling and Tata yelling. Just join them. Make it as interactive as possible. Thank you so much, Mr. Scotty. We appreciate stopping by and talking to, as our bio says, just a few guys from Kendall talking sports. We appreciate you, and we hope that this isn't the last time we see you on the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, tune in next week, and 3 points for Inter Miami. Have a good one, guys.